The Gators' most important recruiting target was on campus this weekend, and I'm talking 5-star offensive tackle Jordan Seaton. He made his much anticipated official visit to Gainesville this past weekend, and we're going to get the lowdown on how it went. We're going to talk about him and a few other major developments in Gator recruiting. But first, UF fans, smash that subscribe button. We are growing this On3 Recruits channel. Look at how many subscribers we got. We want you to join in because we're talking Gators recruiting. And let's bring on my guy, Keith Neibuhr of Gators Online. Keith, you spoke to Jordan last night coming right out of that official visit. What was his impressions of Gainesville?
Well, I mean, he said all the right things, right? He said he really enjoyed his time there. It was kind of a laid-back weekend. He got to spend a lot of time with the players, a lot of time with recruits, including 5-star quarterback DJ Lagway, and he got to know the coaching staff better. So really it was a win all the way around. He feels like he has a better understanding of the program and the community and the team itself following this weekend official visit, Josh.
Man, I thought it was really important for UF to get him on campus. You know, when he canceled that official visit to Tennessee, I wasn't necessarily worried, but with a guy like Jordan Seaton, who's getting attention from all over the country, you just kind of had to wonder, will he really revisit Gainesville? And here he is. He stuck with his word. He took his official visit, and heading into this one, I really thought Alabama, with Florida right behind, maybe the team to beat. What are your sources saying now that Jordan Seaton's off campus and completed his visit?
Yeah, well, obviously, I still think, even though this visit went well, and I think Florida's ecstatic with how it went, I still think that there's more chatter out there right now about Alabama, about Tennessee. But look, he could have easily, Josh, just gotten in a car and driven up to Gainesville for a quick unofficial anytime. He's down in high school in Bradenton, which is just 2.5 hours away. So to get him on campus, he had a game Friday night in Jacksonville. He then drove down to Gainesville, spent a couple days there for his official visit. I do think that is significant. I don't think we should downplay that. But to your point, there is, or more direct to answer your question, there is more chatter right now still about Alabama and Tennessee. We're going to have to see in the days and weeks ahead, could he potentially slip back to Florida for another visit? What does he think about Florida 2, 3, 4 weeks down the line? There is a little bit of that sugar high right now from the official. And it went well. We're just hearing a little bit more chatter about those other schools right now. But Florida certainly is in the mix, Josh. Look, I think they presented a clear picture of what they need and what he can bring to that program along that offensive line. They have a major need at offensive tackle, and I think that was presented very well to him. He understands that.
No doubt. And so many teams have a major need at the offensive tackle position. Once Brandon Baker came off the board, the number 1 tackle in the country, all eyes were on Jordan Seaton, who ranks as the number 2 ranked offensive tackle in the country. Keith, did Jordan give you any indication of when he might be ready to decide?
Now, he didn't. I think this is going to, I think you probably agree. This seems like it's going to go all the way to signing day. I mean, it feels like it. You know, he's had a hard time really cutting his list down. He still mentions, when you talk to him, he still mentions 6, 7, 8, 9 schools, and then he'll throw in a couple more. Right. It doesn't seem like he's ready to eliminate a lot of people just yet. Again, like I said, I think there's more chatter perhaps about Alabama and Tennessee than anyone else, with Florida not far behind. But look, he's still talking about visiting Oregon, Ohio State, Oklahoma, going back to Tennessee, maybe going to Florida State, trying to maybe go down to Miami for a game. I mean, he's got a lot of trips he wants to take, and time is running out. So my gut says this is going to drag on until the very end.
I know. I mean, Keith, you and I cover recruiting. This period of time, if a guy even lists a top 5, you and I can usually look at the top 5 and be like, all right, it's really just these 2 teams. Because at this point in the cycle, guys really have it narrowed down. And when we come to Jordan Seaton, not only is he not narrowing it down, I feel like he's continually adding schools that he's interested in. So I do think that I think it definitely goes into December, and it very well could go down to December 20th, National Early Signing Day. All right, Keith, do you think, this is the last Jordan Seaton question, do you think the Gators need to get Seaton back on campus before he makes a decision?
Not necessarily, but I do think it would help. And, because when you take an official visit, look, it was great that they got him on campus, right? But Florida, Josh, doesn't like to do in-season official visits because the staff's time is so spread, right? I mean, they've got to coach a game. They've got to worry about their current players. And so even though it was what they think was a very good official visit, you probably couldn't give Jordan Seaton the time that you would have been able to give him had that visit been in June. So let's see if you can get him back on campus for a game. They've only got 2 more home games, Josh. November 4th versus Arkansas, and then later in the month at home against Florida State. And then, of course, you could potentially get him in for a quick trip in December, let's say, an unofficial. But I think it would be very beneficial just to get him back at more time, because, Josh, there's a long way between now and signing day. And there is that out of sight, out of mind concept with a lot of recruits. So I think it would be wise if Florida works to get him back, and I think it would be incredibly beneficial if they can make that come true.
Yeah. You always got to work that fine balance of we want to get these guys in the summer so we can give them all the attention and spend as much time as we possibly can with them. But then you love to get them in the fall because you can't recreate a game day in the swamp. So Jordan Seaton, that's what he elected to do. Takes his official visit in the fall. All right, we'll talk more Jordan Seaton down the road. Now I want to talk about a couple flip targets. 2 that could go away from Florida and 1 that could go to Florida. All right, let's start with the major development of the weekend in Texas. 5-star safety and Gator commitment Xavier Filsaime, the number 2 ranked safety in the country, was offered by Texas over the weekend. Now, Keith, there's family ties from in the state of Texas, and there's family ties in the state of Florida. Is there concern? What are you hearing early on about this new offer for one of Florida's top-rated commitments?
Well, look, I think Florida feels comfortable with where it sits. I mean, he committed to Florida on April 13th, the day of the Orange and Blue spring game. He hasn't really wavered since then, at least publicly. He's close with DJ Lagway. He's tight with a lot of the Florida Gator commits. He thinks Florida's building something. Corey Raymond's your secondary coach. I mean, he's probably the most well-known secondary coach in all of college football. So you've got a lot of things working for you in your favor if you're Florida. However, we've heard he'd like to see what they do the rest of the season. And, are they still showing progress in late November? And so that could be significant. So this offer was interesting. I guess if you're Florida, you go back and you counter to Xavier and say, well, why didn't they offer until now? What took them so long to see what we saw the whole time? But it does seem like Texas has a chance to become at least somewhat of a factor here. And also, I wouldn't discount entirely Georgia. They have a need at safety. Supposedly, they're going to visit his school in the near future. So it could be a battle. Now, again, I don't think that's anything Florida fans need to freak out about. Look, when you recruit elite players, and unfortunately for Florida, they hadn't had too many guys like this in recent seasons, and that's why they are where they are. But when you recruit guys like this, you have to recruit through the whistle, to the finish line, all the way. And they understand that. This staff understands that. They know the reality here. But, yeah, I think Florida's still sitting in a favorable spot. Yeah, but, they're going to want to get him back on campus. They're going to want to win some games. They're going to want to finish with a winning record. Or maybe it does get a little bit interesting down the stretch. But, again, Texas certainly will be in the mix. But, Josh, do not discount Georgia. Them having a need at safety means that they might go really hard after Xavier. We'll see.
Yeah, and hey, they missed on the number 1 safety in America, KJ Bolden, so why not turn your attention to the number 2 safety in America? We'll see. Like you said, we'll see how that shakes out. But UF fans, 5-star recruits, they're kind of like supermodels. If you land one, they're going to be trying to flip them. Never going to stop with that attention. All right. Adarius Hayes, the number 6 linebacker in the country. He's been committed to UF even longer than Xavier. He was committed back in January, but he's consistently showed up in Coral Gables. Over the weekend, he was in Miami for their game against Georgia Tech. Kane insiders seem a little bit optimistic about a flip, but what are your sources saying, Keith?
Yeah, first of all, I haven't dated any supermodels, so you lost me a little bit on that reference, but I sort of understand what you're saying.
But you could imagine if you did.
Yeah, I can imagine, sure, yes. I think Florida feels pretty good. They feel like they have laid it out, spelled it out perfectly, what Adarius Hayes means to them, what he can do for them, and how he fits the culture in Gainesville. So they feel like, hey, look, they've done, and we as a program, if you're a Florida coach, we have done all we can do, okay? So they feel like they're in a good spot. He's been to many games in Gainesville. I don't think he's been to Coral Gables that often, but enough where it's a concern. But again, you're going to have people trying to poach your players when you have good recruiting classes. All right, when you have bad recruiting classes, nobody's coming after him. But Adarius Hayes is having an outstanding season at Largo High, the school that produced, if my memory is correct, the great running back Dexter McCluster. He's having a great season. He's doing a lot of things. People were going to come after him. Miami was going to keep recruiting him. But Florida has an outstanding linebacker class. He has said he likes that. He wants to be a part of that. The linebackers coach, Jay Bateman, arguably is Florida's best recruiter, quite frankly. And so it does feel like Florida is probably in a strong spot to land him. But, we will see. I mean, I guess if you're Florida, Josh, you say, gosh, if our commit had to pick one game to go to at Miami, that would have been the one because of how it ended, right?
For real.
But, we say that. But Miami picked up a commit from the outstanding receiver, Nye Carr, just within 2 days of that game. So you just never know what's going through a kid's mind. But, look, he feels comfortable at Gainesville. It ultimately, maybe it becomes an NIL battle between the two schools. I don't know the answer to that. But Florida feels like it's done all it can do. They love the kid, and they want him there, and they think he's going to end up there.
Yeah, it's like dating a supermodel, Keith. All right, now another flip target. This one not away from Florida, but could be to Florida. And we're going to talk about Deontre Robinson. Now, he's out of the Orlando area. He's a 4-star defensive lineman, and he is committed to Texas. So as Texas comes after Xavier Filsaime, UF is going after Deontre Robinson. Now, he was in town 2 weekends ago. Wasn't his first visit to Gainesville. Keith, what are you hearing in terms of UF's chances to flip Robinson?
I felt a little bit more optimistic a week or so ago, Josh. We talked to him outside the swamp, outside the stadium after he visited Florida for the Florida-Charlotte game. And he said, yeah, man, I had a great time. I'm coming back. Texas didn't know that visit was happening. Once they started talking to him, the next time I got a hold of Deontre, he said, well, I don't know if I'm going to visit Florida or not. So Texas clearly got to him.
Got in his ear a little bit, huh?
Yeah, I went. Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't a fun conversation for him. I went to his school last week. He's a great kid. We love talking to him. He's very open. Okay, yeah. He's just a very open young guy. And he said, look, Florida's pushing. I said, on a scale from 1 to 10, how hard are the Gators pushing? He said, 10, absolutely. All right, what kind of chance do they have? He said, not much of one right now. So his plan is to visit Texas again sometime in the near future, but he is not ruling out a return trip to Florida. So why is he so high on Texas? What is keeping him committed to Texas? Well, a couple things. Bo Davis, the defensive line coach, and him have a really solid relationship, although he didn't tell Bo he was going to visit Gainesville, but they have a really solid relationship. But number two, if you look at Texas's lineup right now, they've got some veterans on that defensive line, Josh, that aren't going to be there next year. Yeah. He's an early enrollee, and they're saying, look, you have a legitimate chance. I mean, look, we always know early playing time is everyone's pitch, but sometimes you look at the depth chart, it doesn't really mesh with the words that the staff's saying. But he looks at that Texas depth chart, and he sees a couple seniors there on the defensive line. So he knows if he gets there early, he's going to have a chance to at least be in the mix. Okay, so he said Florida, for them to have a chance, they're going to have to show him something on the field, and they're going to have to show him why it's a better opportunity in Gainesville. So it's going to be a difficult challenge. But Josh, here's one thing Florida has working in its favor. He even said he told Texas this. Why did you go to the Florida game? They asked him. He said, look, it's my dream school. Mm-hmm. Florida is still his dream school, even though he's committed to Texas. He sees the better opportunity at Texas right now. If Florida can convince him the opportunities are somewhat equal, and I'm not saying they aren't, I'm just telling what he's telling me. If they can convince him that and make him think that, then Florida may have a real chance there, Josh. We'll see. That one's going to go to the end, too.
I'm certainly not ruling out Florida. I think Deontre Robinson, like you said, he's very charismatic. He's a great kid. He has a lot of energy. And I think these visits do make an impression on him. And if he shows back up in Gainesville again, then I think that the Gators could have a real shot at flipping this Texas 4-star defensive lineman. We'll just have to keep track of it all in the future, and we will. Thank you, Keith Neibuhr from Gators Online, a big visit weekend in Gainesville. Thank you for dropping by the Inside Scoop. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.